It's Miracle Makers, and we're so honored to be here with you today. We've got in studio with us one of our favorite teachers. Years ago, my husband Greg, Miracle Maker Greg, introduced me to Matt Kahn. And Matt Kahn is an author, a spiritual teacher, a highly attuned empath. Since experiencing a series of rare and spontaneous awakenings beginning at 8 years old, he's been an instrument for transformation. And I would just call you a love bomb.
Yeah, a love bomb. Thank you.
You are just
you.
the experience of being with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Feel the
I love
love that you are. So we're so honored. Miracle Makers, this is a treat for us to have you.
I feel reverent right now because it's so important to us to just throw out all the love we can at the world. And you're such an example of that.
Yes.
So we're so grateful for you because we have beautiful kids who we want to experience a world filled with love. And you're one of the people that I witnessed doing that. So I'm deeply grateful for all the work you do.
Thank you.
You're so welcome,
means so
Matt.
much.
You're so welcome.
We all met many years ago, and what was interesting about when I began my spiritual journey, when I first started teaching, as an intuitive, someone who's connected to the universe, someone who can download information from the universe at will. In the very beginning of my teaching career, I really relied on knowing and thinking that what I knew is what was going to transform people. And I had a really, really interesting shift of awareness where even after lifetimes of awakenings, right? You awaken to consciousness, you are that, there is one I am, you are that, and you get to that point. And what's really interesting is there was a shift for me in my spiritual journey where it went from, instead of being so attached to what the universe knows, I started to really study how the universe moves. And I started to realize that the universe moves and treats all beings with such reverence, respect, and love. And for me, shortly after we had met, there was a shift for me where instead of it being on relying on what I know and what I need to share with people and the information, which is important, it became even more important that every moment of my life, every word that I speak, become an expression of love. It changed my life. It has certainly changed the lives of everyone that I come into contact with. And so I'm humbled and honored to not only be someone who is helping the world awaken, but to do it in the name of love.
And that's it, Miracle Makers, that's it right there, because we go through our day with being parents or being workers or being friends, children, or and relating with our parents, all that. And if you can embody that right there, being loved and being, and when sometimes when I think of a spiritual person who is loving and giving love, it's not a powerful presence, but at the same time you can bring a powerful presence and connect with countless people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing, Miracle Makers, is to share love in an empowered way.
Yes, and I think that when you are on a spiritual path and cultivating love for yourself is not the focus, oftentimes love or the spiritual path is what you do with your time, like when you're not a parent, when you're not with your spouse. It actually the spiritual journey becomes a little bit of an adulterous affair. Where spirituality is what often gets between the love of partnership. Spirituality is what distracts parents from being more loving with their children. Not now, honey, I'm being spiritual.
Yeah.
But when loving ourselves becomes our spiritual practice, we are not removing ourselves from our lives to be spiritual in a private room or our little inner sanctuary. We are actually allowing how we conduct ourselves, how we treat others, our children, our spouse, more importantly, how we speak to ourselves. That's actually the spiritual practice. So what I love about this is that what we are inviting the world to practice is not removing them from their relationships, but giving them the ingredients to enhance their relationships.
That's such a beautiful point, and it brings up a great story or an example that just, as you were talking, I caught these beautiful images. Quite often, we practice self-love or spiritual love or our existence, like even positive affirmations. Well, it's like cutting a flower and sticking it into a vase and saying, oh, this is so beautiful, it's so lovely, I'm practicing now, like that flower in the cut vase. And what you're talking about is, instead of cutting a flower, putting it in a vase, taking the flower you are and rooting it into the ground, and everything around you being connected with this self-love, with this development, turning yourself into the flower in the moment, whatever is beautiful within you, to shine that out and to radiate that. And so you begin with this core of being loved, being connected. And so you're not separating out, like cutting it and going, okay, now this is this flower here. This is the time. Please don't disturb my flower.
My spiritual time.
My spiritual
Not now,
time.
honey, I'm opening my chakras. Or whatever it is. Not now, honey, I'm being fully present. Again, all these teachings are wonderful. Every teaching is beautiful, has a place in the spiritual journey. However, it's so often that I find, and even when I work with people, couples, single parents, whatever the situation is, it's so often that beings use the spiritual journey as how they recharge their batteries, but it divorces them from their life. Instead of, how can my spiritual journey recharge me, energize me, but bringing me more into the presence of my reality instead of removing myself from it. So I think that this is a very radical shift, and I think it's a much needed change, and I think what I've seen is there are many, many people around the world that are finally ready to step into a new paradigm of spirituality and are really quite sick and tired of doing so much work for very little benefit.
That's such a beautiful point too. But with love, the benefit is constant. Well, even though in the moment, it's every relationship, and this is so beautiful. I love your teachings. I love and for those miracle makers who are not familiar with you yet, I'd love for you to share how you came into this teaching yourself, and how you went from having these knowings and these thoughts to building the Angel Academy, to the liberation and freedom movement, and then into this gorgeous, amazing book that you've written.
Thank you. Well, at a certain point of my journey, when I shifted from the realization of I don't rely on my knowing, instead it's about how loving I need to be. And what I realized and this was not as if I had to change anything about myself, but I realized how loving I am towards myself and other people was like an awakening that brought them the knowing without me having to convince anyone. So it was like just leading with love was seen to be such a powerful catalyst as someone who I dedicate my life to the service of humanity, so I want to do whatever I can to help people in a very practical and provocative way. So at a certain point when I had that shift of awareness, I received an intuition, and I was told, you're about to receive the core teachings of your life work that will be what you will fundamentally bring to the world. At a certain point of evolution, when a being awakens, they start bringing through unique teachings that become unlike anything anyone else has offered, as a way of celebrating the uniqueness of divinity in that form. So I was told I was going to receive these unique teachings, and I had no idea what they were. And then one day, I just, in such an auspicious way, I heard in my head, whatever arises, love that. Had no idea what it meant, but because I have such a connection with the universe, for me, sometimes the excitement is not asking for clarification. I just wanted to test it out myself, because I can always ask. So I went around my neighborhood, and I thought, well, whatever arises, love that. I'll take that literally. And so I would see a bird fly in the sky, and I would go, I love you. And I thought, well, I don't know if this is how the teaching works, but we're just going to see what happens. There was a city worker operating a jackhammer, startled me, and I go, well, that's arising. Love you. And I said in my head, it was like everything was target practice, and I was just sending love. I saw myself like a spiritual postal worker. And I was just delivering I love you letters to every person on my route. And I was like, I don't know if this is the teaching, but this is nice, and this is okay. And then it all of a sudden flipped inside of me, and I realized, I went, oh, yes, sending love to people, that's great. That's a great practice. It cultivates humility and it purifies our being very, very distinctly. But what the teaching actually was pointing to was that life will take shape and form in whatever way it will, whether it's a disgruntled employee, a resentful friend, the betrayal of a lover, and whatever arises inside of your being in response to that activity is like a child, the next one in line to be loved by you. So then I realized, oh, the surrender is we surrender to the fact that divinity is dressed up as these characters.
Yes.
At the right moment that something in you needs more love, not less, something in life will trigger some sort of chain reaction. You will have a reaction to that course of events. It's not wrong spiritually to react to something, because the reaction is simply showing you this is next in line to be loved. And then I started to realize the judgment is we think that feelings are a sign of a lack of evolution. Instead of saying thank you, emotion, for showing me where my love needs to go, as I love myself more, through the law of one, all beings are transformed from the inside out. And so I started to realize how step by step love is the answer. We all know love is the answer, is the highest vibration, but how do we really step by step connect to it? And so I've had the absolute humbling honor of being able to bring through a step-by-step way, almost an owner's manual of a new spiritual paradigm, so that beings who want to be connected, who want to be loved, who want to transform reality, who want to heal their bodies, who want to manifest their highest potential, now have a blueprint.
Wow.
What a beautiful gift to give. And Miracle Makers, I heard you say, lead with love.
Yes.
And leading with love really embodies, it might be on the physical level, whatever you're seeing, the car horn that's honking that would normally irritate you, to really breathe and let yourself say, I love that, and I love my reaction to it as well.
That's right.
I love the emotion that's coming up around this, and this emotion is tuning me in to something, and whatever comes around from that moment forward, it's no longer, oh, I'm judging myself for judging this and canceling out my own love. Lead with love in every area. And whenever you find yourself, this is what I hear you saying, whenever you find yourself having feelings, really tune into and allow your frequency to begin generating a love broadcast.
That's right.
From there, on purpose, consciously.
Absolutely. Well said. Miracle makers. What about these two? These two are amazing miracle makers. I love this.
I would love to hear about miracles in your life. You're a miracle for so many people. Those that have read your book, your fans, we're fans. Conscious Life Expo, the places that you speak, raving reviews. You have incredible work. And so what are some of the miracles that you've been part of? Or
it's a fascinating role to play. And I remember this was maybe a year ago. I remembered, I had a recollection of a moment when I was about 8 years old. When I was 8 years old, I was looking at the sky and I made a declaration and I said, I want to spend my life front row watching the miracle of divinity in action. And I remember that I made that declaration when I was 8, and then I fast forward to my life right now, and really the work that I do, I sit front row.
Yeah, you do.
And I get to watch divinity in action. And so the work that I do is so incredible because I'm as amazed as and in awe of the reverence of divinity as are the people who are receiving what's coming through me as a fully embodied expression of consciousness in action. The miracles, I mean, it's so humbling to hear about someone coming to a gathering, a talk that I give, and I had a dialogue with a woman who was in stage 4 cancer, and there was, I said something that created this shift inside of her that she and everyone else in the room actually could palpably feel. Yeah. She went to the doctors the next day, and the cancer had been reduced by 50%.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, it's just the confirmation of, thank you, divinity, for giving me the chance to see your light and your glory in action, even though we are that divinity.
Exactly, that's the whole, yeah.
The magic is you are that divinity, so you own it as the I am. But the magic of this path is that you can fully own the fact that you are that miraculous divinity, but that when you're a being who still has reverence for the divine, that's the balance. You can't be too awake to not think of this as an ensemble performance.
Yeah.
So it's for miracles like when my dad was alive, I gave him an intuition. I said, you have 20 minutes to get to the hospital. I know this sounds weird, Dad.
Yeah.
There's something in your leg, there's a blockage there, and you have 20 minutes to get to the hospital, or you're going to have a heart attack. And I said, look, if nothing happens, I'll pay your hospital bill. I said, but it was one of those intuitions where it's like, if I don't tell you this, I'm going to explode. My dad trusts me. He goes to the hospital. 20 minutes after I gave him that message, he had a mild heart attack, and the blockage in his leg was a blood clot. He had surgery, and they immediately repaired it. But that was a miraculous moment, and it was where the universe was using me as a character to help to instill more faith in my father's life, or with my mother and helping her through cancer, or the countless lives that I've touched in session and at the retreats that we offer where people are walking in. We did a retreat and someone walked in on crutches, and by day 2, she puts them down and starts dancing around. And I'm sitting here watching this going, this is amazing. Yeah. But for me, the gift is that every single time I do something, it is like the first time I've done it. And I am always just as in awe of the majesty of divinity as everyone else. And to me, that's what keeps this work very pure, and it makes it very real, very magnetic, and quite incredible.
Well, and as we can tell right now, it keeps the some people can get trapped in awe or caught up in, I'm giving something, or I'm special and I'm allowing this.
Right.
Or with, I can sense with you and know with you. It's just because you have that reverence for the divine, and you know that it's all divine and it's just flowing through you. And then if you can be in that space, not only are you humble, and is it obvious that you're humble, but you're in the front row of seeing the miraculous. Experience the miraculous in every day, wherever that is, whether it's in a setting like that where someone has a healing, or if it's just out in nature, or sending love to the construction worker, whatever that is. Right. You're in the front row of the miraculous.
Absolutely.
How awesome.
It is, it's so awesome. Even when people will write us and go, I had a dream and you came to me and you told me this message, and my consciousness works in a very multidimensional way, so I'm not aware of the things I'm helping people with, and apparently I'm helping people in all these different levels. And so it's very humbling because it's the universe is in awe of its own infinite perfection, and the ability to express that perfection and to see the tangible results and shifts and changes, just as divinity plays in its own infinite magic, is an absolutely intoxicating and very indescribable reality. So it's always with such reverence and humility and absolute gratitude that I have for every breath and for the opportunity to serve every soul.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And miracle makers, what I want you to catch is you don't bring the past into the present, or the future into the present. You are with the moment, bringing and feeling and moving through the experience with all of you fully present. And that creates, that love creates miracles, including love miracles of shifting the body, your love miracle of being able to hear what needs to be heard for those that you love or others in the room. And this is, as a medical doctor and as a medical intuitive as well, this is one of the things that I learned when I was in hospitals. You sit with people, you sit and you hear their stories and you love them. and the cancers went away, or
Right.
without the surgery, their heart wasn't strong enough to do the kidney cancer, the removal of portions of the kidney, waiting for their heart to be strong enough. As a young doctor going in and visiting and just loving, love is the most incredible force, and it hasn't yet fully been studied. We were with another guest, and I want to share this with you, Filippo Voltaggio, and he said, we split the atom bomb and created this bomb, and what would happen if we created love bombs?
Yes.
And we're hearing the power of your love showing up in dreams, showing up in healing, showing up in regions of the world, regions, lands, people that are connected to divinity because you stay present, moment to moment. What kind of world, what kind of love bombs? Groups of people coming together with this energy, what that would be like, miracle after miracle after miracle.
Absolutely. And when we start to see that the world is not a reflection of what's unresolved in us, we are a foreshadowing of what the world's becoming. And at the same time, the world we see, we didn't individually create a world of turmoil, but what we see is that a world in view we can each transform when we become the first ones to receive the love that over a period of time it will look like the characters around you are receiving in all of their lives. So we're not the ones that necessarily created what we see, but we are the ones that must receive it first so that the characters in front of us can start to receive and transform and reflect that vibration back to us.
So I want to put that into an example. For example, someone comes to us upset, and if we are able to see their upset and not attach it to who they are, that upset, this upset is occurring, and we love the upset, and we love the being behind the upset, and by loving the upset doesn't mean the upset's okay.
Right.
The upset can be as it is, showing up, but by embracing and nurturing it and by loving it. And I think to all of the wars and all of the war-torn regions, as we're speaking of this example, what's arisen in Syria, what's happening in Iraq, what's happening in Afghanistan, in Israel, Palestine, India, Pakistan, in Africa, we hear this information. It causes emotions to arise in us. And whether it shows up in the news or whether it shows up, what do you speak into existence and into movement, into love with that? With these wars, with the state of the world it is that we're in right now.
Sure. People who abuse their power and victimize others have a lot of passion and don't know what to do with it. So people that abuse other people don't know what to do with their passion, and they repress it and take it out on other people. People that are victimized have passion and don't know how to unleash it and awaken it. When we love ourselves, what are we awakening when we love ourselves? We are awakening a tidal wave, an infinite wellspring of passion. And what we are learning to do as human beings, as spirit in human form, we are learning that by loving ourselves, we become comfortable with our own power. We allow the passion to be expressed instead of repressed. When it's repressed, we have problems, we have judgments, we have finger pointing. Other people are the blame for our experiences, and we live in victimhood. When we are loving ourselves, when our passion goes from repressed to fully expressed, then all of a sudden we become the solution to the world's problems. We embody a vibration that reaches out to every attacker and persecutor and says, it's okay to own your power. Because when we can either telepathically or in our own embodied nature let people know it's okay to own their power at that moment there's no desire to take their life out on innocent human beings. So really the answer to war and victimhood is that both attackers and those who are attacked are learning to own their power by transforming passion from repressed to expressed energy, and what creates that shift is loving ourselves more often.
So beautifully expressed. And the point that I want to make with this is, if you care about peace in the world,
Yes.
if you want to bring a change, embody love in the now moment. Every time you think of war and it causes an upset, it generates tidal waves of amplifying repression.
Sure.
And that's what I believe I heard you say, is to embody peace and embody love and embody expression of yourself where you have power in the moment.
Yes.
By expressing yourself, you let go of all the repression in the field miles and miles away.
Sure.
And that's how to create peace and be powerful at the same time, is to embody your own life.
Absolutely, and I can even intuitively feel that there might be some miracle makers out there that might say, you know, this is all well and good.
Yeah.
How do I embody love? So what I
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
say,
that's,
right, that's
Yeah.
the basic
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, yeah,
So what
yeah.
I would say is, what if we took a different approach, just because it's 2016, and the miracle makers deserve a different approach,
Yes.
and we said, instead of trying to be present in the now, the one who doesn't know how to be in the now, the one that thinks they're bad at being the now, the one that gets down on themselves because they can't do it,
Yeah.
is the next one we love. So what if we love the one who doesn't know how to be in the now, the one who thinks they're bad at it? That's the next one that we love. The one who gets triggered and the one who identifies with what they see. What if, instead of trying to be a certain way, we just said, however I am, whether judgmental, whether how unevolved or poorly I think I'm doing in running the spiritual decathlon of life,
Yeah, exactly.
what if all of these attributes and characteristics are only arising because these are the parts that need more love? Because there's the part of ourselves, the capable part, that always gets the favoritism. The incapable part, the one that fails, the one that's always last in line, the one that can't do anything right, that one doesn't get as much loving attention. And what we're really learning to do is not say that it's the same experience. Winning and losing is not the same thing.
Yeah.
But when we learn that the one who wins, the one who loses, the one that gains, the one who is without, the one who succeeds, and the one who fails triumphantly, it may not feel the same, but they all deserve the same loving support, respect, and kindness. I think we start getting into a place where, instead of here's what we should do, we say, what is my experience right now? And perhaps the only reason I'm experiencing this is because this is what is ready to be loved. So because then we're no longer using spirituality to prove anything to ourselves. It's like, oh, well, right now I don't think I'm being present. Okay, I love you to the one who's not present.
Exactly.
I love you. You're not in the now. Well, I love you.
Yes.
And then what happens is a really phenomenal shift that happens. When we, instead of trying to be love, because then people are going to fail at that and then go, I'm not a miracle maker, I couldn't be in the now, and you all are miracle makers. So instead of I'm failing at following the instructions, let's create foolproof invitations to where even if someone thinks they're doing it wrong, the one that does it wrong is here to be loved. And from that space, what we realize, and this is something I realized many years ago, and it changed my life forever. The present moment is something we cannot enter. It's what we can't escape.
Wow.
Just flips it right upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what love will teach you.
Yes.
Because again, we all have the right intention. Being present, phenomenal teaching.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful.
Yeah.
However, when we're trying too much to be in charge of being in the present moment,
Yeah.
we actually don't see, again, it's not a space we enter, it's a space we can't leave. And that really lightens things up.
And what a better way to frame it, I just love this, is just to bring love to all of that. And as you were talking, like, oh yeah, bring radical love, or bring unstoppable love, but it's not.
Yes.
It's just love.
Yes.
It's just because love is radical, love is
yes.
unstoppable, love is all that. You don't need to qualify it in any way. Just love is.
Just love.
Just that in itself. It's like, I'm all lit up right now. I can feel it in my body.
Love
It's
the
like,
one who can't do anything right. Love the one who tries to do things right. Love the one who uses the spiritual journey to prove something to themselves. The one that thinks they're trying. The one who treats the spiritual path like they're auditioning for some role with the universe. Like I'm an actor, and I'm using my spiritual path, and I'm auditioning for God, and I'm down on myself because I'm failing, my camera audition. And really, when we're not proving anything to ourselves, when we're not using spirituality to prove our worthiness. I mean, isn't it radical to, instead of trying to do these spiritual things to become worthy, to just say, I don't know how to feel worthy, I don't know how to believe I'm worth anything, and the one who doesn't know how to feel worthy only deserves my love. Then we're making some progress in a very different way.
Because like you say, the other part, you were talking like, oh yeah, I got my wardrobe, and I got makeup, and I got hair, and like you say, we're an actor. I mean, it's like, it's so easy to fall into that though, because of the human, the way we think about it, the ego, and all this stuff like that. So,
of course.
And again, so if you just bring it back always, just bring it back to love. And I love that because you just put your hands over your heart,
right
and there it is, right there, just like
right there.
There's your reminder.
Yeah.
Right
honey.
there. Yeah.
Oh, honey. Oh, honey. Doing way too much. And doing way too much that if you do it well, you're going to find something else to test yourself against.
Yeah.
And if you fail miserably, you're still not going to give yourself the door prize anyway. So I love you. Like, it's with exhaustion and with resolve and with a dose of humor that we all eventually, at the certain point of the spiritual journey, oh, honey. Oh, honey. Oh, honey, I love you.
Yeah.
And what we realize, the mind is not active to fight us. The mind is active because it wants attention. I love you, mind. The heart is not contracted or shut down because we are victims of a collective consciousness. It wants love.
Yeah.
Not that any of these things aren't true. It's just as you evolve to a higher dimension, there's a bigger truth. And the bigger truth is that we are all divinity, all at various levels of maturity.
Yeah.
Right? Some of us, we're all at different grades in this giant school, right? Yeah. And every grade and every level is absolutely critical. But we're all on different journeys. We're all learning about the importance of love in different ways. And this is very much an evolution. It would be so easy to say, here's what you do for instantaneous this or that. But the truth is, the spiritual journey is a lifelong journey.
Never ends,
Right? You have had experiences, we've all had experiences of awakenings. Awakenings are instantaneous, but you need the rest of your life to digest that instantaneous experience. So when we learn to love ourselves, we're making the digestion of our big experiences as important as the pursuit or the experiences that we have. And it really creates a very deep level of maturity.
That level of maturity, or that level of like figuring out what grade level am I in?
I know, right? Oh,
or
honey.
that, I know, isn't that funny? That experience that so many, whether they learned it from their parents, whether they learned it from society, all of that, those practices becoming a moment to moment, heart to heart connection when those words come up. And when you're in the frequency with the group, the fire burns so bright.
Yes.
And so that's part of what arises higher levels of consciousness by regularly, on a regular basis, connecting with whatever brings you to an expanded space.
Absolutely. It's funny, even like on a spiritual path, and again, I joke about the experiences I've had in my spiritual journey throughout my life, and people laugh because they resonate with the things I've gone through. So, but you know, it's funny when you think about on a spiritual path, what grade am I in? What vibration I'm at? It's the spiritual equivalent of, do you like me or do you like me like me? It's all the same thing. It's all, I want to be liked, I want to be accepted. You know, I want to do something wonderful that uplifts humanity, which can be very much confused with I just want to be recognized and seen for who I am, which is fine. We all deserve to be recognized. We all deserve to be honored because we're all beautifully intelligent, genius expressions of divinity. And part of the confusion is we're all waiting around for other people to recognize us instead of starting our own love revolution and saying, could it be that the one who's been spending their whole life waiting for others to recognize them is the one I'm waiting to be recognized by? And again, when people are at that point of their life and they realize it's time for me to become the source of my own fulfillment. It's time for me to start my own love revolution. It's time for me to stop being disappointed by what other people are not designed to give me, but instead it's time for me to start learning step by step how to give myself all that I require. Again, that is what inspired this book that I'm so grateful to share with the world.
Whatever arises, love that.
Absolutely.
A love revolution that begins with you. And as we've been speaking, and when we are in a high space, or we think, oh, I'm at the college or the PhD level, we ourselves are talking ourselves into a superiority sort of complex.
That's right.
And when we're like, oh my God, I just yelled at the kids. Oh, I just did that. We're in that inferiority complex with ourselves. And what you're talking about is coming from the interior.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no judgment. There's an integration of the interior. And so you fill the interior with love. And that interior filled with love brings you into the moment that you can't be out of.
Right.
You can't be out of the present when you're coming from the interior.
Absolutely. It's a very interesting thing where, you know, in this modern day spiritual journey that a lot of us are on, and in fact the entire world's on, whether they know it or not. It's just the difference between a spiritual journey and everyday life is one just aware of the spiritual journey.
That's right.
But everyone's on a spiritual journey whether they know it or not. And I think we're at a time where, you know, instead of trying to position ourselves as like, I'm at this vibration, oh, you've got 10 spirit guides, I've got 15 spirit guides. You're from the 10th dimension, from the 85th dimension. You know, and trying to do this one-upsmanship thing, which then when you get caught in that kind of a tailspin, you know, you're going to be, you know, the 85th dimensional being who will yell at your children for the silliest thing. Not so divine after all. So through great humility and with great compassion for all of us, for this beautifully, outrageously gorgeous and ridiculous journey that we're all on, it really comes down to we all really deserve. Actually, you know, it reminds me, I said a couple weeks ago, if the world stopped and gave everyone the benefit of the doubt for even 1 second, world peace would be attained. So really love begins with, what if you became the one that gave you the benefit of the doubt, no longer looked at you through the eyes of incrimination, and then you decided to give that gift and just gave the benefit of the doubt to any person that came your way as your contribution towards world peace. And what we'd find is when we decide to just for one moment give ourselves and others the benefit of the doubt, that's the energy that opens us up to receive love as the ultimate transformer of life.
Wow. So miracle makers, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Give yourself this ability to look at yourself with different lenses. It's this beautiful thing to sit and say, wow, love, love, love. Loving myself, this I did for love.
That's right.
Whatever it was, even yelling at the kids, at some level you did for love, giving yourself the benefit of the doubt.
Right, and what's interesting is when you give even your emotions the benefit of the doubt, the fear is, oh, if I made peace with anger, I'd be angry more often and I'd really treat my children in an unfortunate way. The truth is that when you make peace with your emotions, none of them can overwhelm you in a way that you act in a dishonorable way. So obviously no one wants to be mean to their children. Yeah. Obviously, that would never be something we would want for any child or any adult. No one really wants to be that way. Really, when people are angry, they're basically saying to their children, I've run out of options.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how to cope with life because I'm looking at life through the lens of a kaleidoscope and I'm pretending it's a telescope.
Yeah.
Sorry, honey. I'm being a little crazy right now.
Yeah.
Being a little crazy, and I'm trying to be a parent and it's not working out.
Yeah.
But when we really make peace with our emotions, give it the benefit of the doubt, and the benefit of the doubt could simply be as simple as, I don't like to feel angry, but perhaps anger is trying to give me a message. Perhaps anger is saying, if you spent a little bit more time in your life being passionate, maybe that passion wouldn't be repressed and wouldn't be projected onto your innocent children. Because then when people act out towards their children, then they punish themselves by further repressing the passion and not making time for themselves. So maybe if we give the benefit of the doubt to our feelings, maybe there's messages, maybe there's wisdom, and maybe the very feeling that used to cause us to act this way is going to give us a message that causes us to raise our vibration, to be more balanced and harmonious, and of course treat everyone in our family, including ourselves, with the love, kindness, and respect that we all deserve.
So beautiful. I love the kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
We've got a kaleidoscope, and we're looking sometimes as if we have a telescope.
That's right.
And instead of catching all the brilliance, we have somehow created a response in our body that shrinked us down into this tiny little vision. And
That's right.
it's so important to give yourself time. Those, as you said, when anger comes up, it's because there's some need or expression that didn't happen a little bit earlier down the road, possibly.
That's right.
Or even in that moment with the breathing being there, we constricted.
Right.
And the kaleidoscope of possibilities is now lasered here.
Absolutely. What I often see with parents, especially having worked with parents, is that sometimes there's a parent in their own personal life who hasn't taken the time to be the one that says to their heart, I am here to hear you. And so then that parent is someone who is in need of being heard and hasn't been there for themselves to be the listener. Then they project onto their children, you're the one that I created to listen to me. I couldn't listen to me, so you're going to listen to me. And then what's the big surprise? Why won't my children listen to me? Because you're the one who was created to listen to you.
Yes.
And it can be a very deep realization, and it sometimes takes a very painful road to realize that truth. But then eventually we realize everything, and I say this with the caveat that it's never to justify being in a toxic relationship.
Yes.
Never justification, never stay in a toxic relationship to accept what is.
Yeah.
But the common theme is that what we often demand from others, from our spouse to our children, is what we deny giving ourselves. And that is what the love revolution reconciles in every heart.
Beautiful miracle makers catching that. What's missing in the moment is what you're not giving.
That's right.
Yourself.
That's
if
right.
you're angry, if there's anger and emotion coming up, really give to yourself the listening that you are seeking from others.
That's right.
Awesome.
I mean, imagine being in LA traffic, just because we're here in LA.
Yes.
Honking horns, you're agitated, and you say to the honking horns, thank you for reminding me how passionate and powerful I am.
Always.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yes.
My lack of artistic and self-expression has now become a campaign against horn honking. Thank you for reminding me how passionate and powerful I am. When we start to use everything in our life as a catalyst of awakening, when we can interpret or see everything as a gift instead of a liability, then our consciousness awakens and we can start to celebrate our inherent mastery through the cultivation of loving relationships, which is, again, the benchmark of spiritual maturity. You don't have to measure your vibration to know where you stand in the universe.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at your relationships. People wonder, what vibration am I at? How am I doing my spiritual path? How are your relationships? How are your relationships with your emotions? How are your relationships with your children? How are your relationships with the people that you think are at a lower vibration?
Yeah.
Where are your relationships? Not how are they behaving.
Yes.
What's your relationship? What's your one-sided transaction of love with people, whether you think they deserve it or not? That's the benchmark.
That's the
Yes.
benchmark, the test right there. That is
Yeah.
it. Yeah. 'Cause there's, I mean, what comes to mind, and I'll just because it's Eckhart Tolle, who was said, or actually he was quoting Ram Dass, I think, which Ram Dass said, if you think you're enlightened, just spend a week with your parents.
Absolutely.
And he said, if you can be around your parents and be at peace, then you're at a PhD level. I mean, I don't know if that's exact, but I mean, that's it. That's the relationship.
Yeah.
Just go out and test yourself against your relationships. Then you'll know where you're at, whether it's your boss or your spouse or your kids or your parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of those, yeah.
I think I'll just to add to that, I think what I said, can't remember what I said. I've forgotten everything I've said. I said, true character is revealed the moment after you don't get your way.
Yes.
Who do you become when you don't get your way? And I remember when I was in front of an audience and I said that, everyone's like, whoa, because that's the reality of this, is
Yes.
who do you become when you don't get your way? When your soul is pretty much in a state of embodiment, you cannot get your way, and there can be laughter at, wow, here's what I thought what was, here's what is, and the difference is astounding.
Or another door opens.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you fix on that, then you're closing off the miraculous divine nature of the universe. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even to take the step of saying, I accept that the one who always needs to get their way, who doesn't know how to be happy without getting their way, or who's totally tied up in knots if they don't get their way, is only here to be loved.
Yes.
So it all comes back to loving the one who has a way to get, loving the one who fights to get their way, loving whatever we're feeling in the moment as a chance to transform reality for the well-being of all.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
My heart is dancing inside my
love
body
that.
right now.
I can see it. It's
Yeah,
great.
It's dancing right now. So this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you
Great.
for sharing.
Thank you.
Just, you're sharing divinity.
Yeah.
That's what I sense right now sitting next to you as you're talking right now. And it's so beautiful to witness that in another human being.
Thank you.
So thank you for being that.
Likewise, and thank you for being such gifts to these miracle makers, each and every one of them. And thank you for doing the work that you do as a wonderful example of partnership for your relationship with your children. I mean, really, it is truly an honor to be here with you, truly an honor to be with all your miracle makers, and truly an honor to share this wonderful book and these teachings with each and every heart. We all know we're here to awaken, to assist the evolution of the planet. How do we do that? Now, a roadmap has been created. So thank you for giving me the time to share that.
Oh, we are so blessed. In here you get integration into all aspects of yourself.
Yes.
Loving all of those that show up, and it's so engaging and such. We say we are catalysts for love. This has been our, and then we've been on your campaign for a while with getting the book and part of this, and so. It's groundbreaking teachings on engaging love as the most potent catalyst for transformation and healing.
Yeah.
And so we can find you on the internet, and you have talks. Can you just, for our miracle makers, let us know how we can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, whatever Rises Love, that is available on Amazon and at any major book retailer. Thankfully, this is wonderful. I'm so excited. This is such an accomplishment and such a gift for the world.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the gift, let it float, fly out. Yeah, spread everywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for all those who want to be a part of the Love Revolution, who are interested in these teachings, you can go to our website at truedivinenature.com. sign up for the free newsletter, and we send out a free energetic activation. And we also update our calendar as to where we're appearing throughout the world as a way of, for those that are really taking in these teachings, we do the live events to really integrate it and make these transformations and healings as deeply profound as possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you,
can
Becca.
always find us on drsarahlarson.com, and we will have links. And
Yeah.
we're highly recommending everyone get a
Thank you.
love dose from Matt Kahn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you,
you,
Miracle
Miracle Makers.
Makers. Woo!